Shutterstock Music.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Black College Experience. I am Big D, Derek Thomas, out of the Valley down here in Baton Rouge. And I have on with me the founder of Black College Experience after a long trip from the Madison to the Classic, Diva Kales. How are you?
I am fine. I am literally like the road warrior, like the road runner. I'm getting off the highway straight onto radio. So, very great weekend. The weather was very disrespectful in Birmingham. Very, very, very disrespectful. But even in the end, it was a great time. Amongst maybe 62,000 people, Alabama State was the victor this weekend.
Shocked. I mean, everyone looked at Alabama A&M as as competing with Alcorn for that SWAC East spot, but to lose to a team like Alabama State, the thing is, it's a rivalry game, so records are thrown out the equation when these two teams go together. But you still have to look at the impact that this game has on the SWAC East standings. I mean, this just kind of muddies the water a little bit.
And this is one of the things I want, So with that being said, I guess we'll start here with Magic City Classic. With that happening, with Alabama A&M losing, what position does that put them in, since now the East basically solely rests on Alcorn? Because next week Alabama A&M plays Alcorn. That's the next game. So what happens here in this game?
Well, right now
you have the quarterback shuffle. Go ahead.
Oh. A quarterback shuffle?
Hello?
I'm here. A quarterback shuffle, you say?
Yes. And what's happening is that you're having a lot of switching of quarterbacks. Yesterday, point blank period, James Spady was out-coached. He was just simply out-coached. Too much for it was just too much for Alabama A&M. And going into this game, first drive, pretty good. Alabama A&M gets the ball. It's their turn. Okay, going great. First drive, you just immediately intercepted. And when you do that and they capitalize off of it, you're in trouble. So, needless to say, once again, great game. But in the end, Alabama A&M had a chance to take this game back because it was only 21-16. They had a chance to take this game back. Once again, the quarterback shuffle, you switching quarterbacks in and out. Run the ball. Please run the ball. Get the first down, please. Stop going for Hail Marys and trying to make long passes, because that ain't your game. And in the end, Alabama State, once again, was the victor.
Right. And this game marked the return of Jordan Bentley into the game, scored a touchdown. I do agree with you. This game was hotly contested, as most rivalry games will be. And switching those quarterbacks out for Akil Glass and Damian May, I mean, it finally caught up with Alabama A&M, and this, like I said, it muddies the water. And right now, the conference standings are Alcorn sits at 3-1 in the conference, Bama A&M at 3-2. Excuse me, Bama A&M at 3-2, Alabama State at 2-2. My Delta Devils at 1-3. We're gonna talk about that game later. I'm so dejected. And the Tigers at 1-3 in the SWAC East. Just like I said, muddies the water. And you say Alabama A&M plays Alcorn next week?
Alabama A&M is Alcorn and Alabama A&M. I want to say yes.
Okay. So if Alabama A&M wins that game, they will both be tied at 3-2.
Let me double check that. But go ahead.
If they win, let's just say Alabama A&M and Alcorn do play, because I haven't looked at the schedule myself. And if Alabama A&M wins the game, they would give them the same record in the conference at 3-2. That would give Alabama A&M
That's who they play next week at 3:00. They do.
It's the top. Alabama A&M beats Alcorn. That would put them at first in the SWAC East. If Alabama State, I think Alabama State has already lost to Alcorn, and they have defeated Alabama A&M. So Alabama A&M would have to have Alabama State would have to have a lot of help to move up into that number one spot in the SWAC East. And wouldn't that be something? After the start that they had, to fire their coach and to somehow miraculously end up being number one in the SWAC East standings. It's still in play because Alcorn has lost 2 games. One game in the SWAC East. If Alabama A&M rights their ship and defeats Alcorn next week, and Alabama State wins, they will all be sitting at 3-2 in the SWAC East. So, another game I want to talk about, and I don't really want to talk about it, but for the sake of what we do, I have to, because I have to eat a lot of crow. A lot of crow this week for all the noise I talked all week long picking at Jackson State and their 0-7 record. Even decided to create a character called 0-8, combining a 0, a hyphen, and an 8 with a tiger's face to make fun of the Tigers, and it came back to bite me as Jackson State defeated my Delta Devils. They defeated us 24-5. And even though it looks lopsided, the game didn't get away until late because we scored the first points of the game. Jackson State went into halftime with a 10-3 lead. We had a chance to score points, but we squandered our chances. We did nothing in the first half. We didn't try to attack the Jackson State defense. I don't know what was going on with our offense because I know last week we played against Virginia Lynchburg. Yeah, but we did score points against Pine Bluff. We have the ability to score. We just didn't execute, and we let the Tigers escape, and they got a chance to get their first win. And I got egg thrown in my face. I've been catching it from the Tiger faithful all day and especially yesterday. I got tagged so much on Facebook, I just wanted to shut my account down. But when you make bold predictions, you gotta live with the results of your decisions. And so Jackson State, you all proved that I was wrong, you were right. Whoopee, have your cookie. But we are still ahead of you in the SWAC East. Rest of the SWAC games, Prairie View defeated Bacon 34-17. Grambling blows out Texas Southern 50-24, and your Jaguars survived the upset bid by Arkansas Pine Bluff. So, right now the SWAC West standings sit at Grambling at 4-0, your Jags at 3-1, Prairie View at 2-2, Pine Bluff at 1-3, and Texas Southern at 0-3. So if Grambling and Southern continue to win, the Bayou Classic will decide the SWAC West, and I know that's what you want to happen, right?
That's every year. Every year, Bayou Classic is the basic decider because it decides who's going to SWAC Championship. The SWAC Championship is decides Celebration Bowl. So at this point, in a weekend, very, very, very competitive football. I didn't get a chance to go back through all of the highlights, but I'm trying to understand how we managed to be way up, and then they got back in this ball game to only lose by 7 points. That's a close call. We won the ball, but you know what? That will not win you another game. That won't win you a championship, and that definitely won't win you, in the case of Bayou Classic or Celebration Bowl. You can't play games like that. You got to be able to execute. You got to be able to play the game all 4 quarters, and you can't let another team. And it's kind of like the New Orleans Saints. They do the same thing. They play and they do all this hustle-bustle defense, and then it's like, in the end, you end up winning. But it's like you're letting people creep back in. You can't do that. You have to make the necessary adjustments. You have to do what you got to do. Honestly, Pine Bluff, they have a better team this year. We're seeing what Monty Coleman is doing. They're actually coming in and they're executing. It's like a turnaround because they gave Alabama A&M a fight. So
and they came back and beat Jackson State too. From behind, Jackson State had a game
exactly.
Won.
They came in, they beat Jackson State. They gave us a near-death sentence, and then they played Alabama A&M tough. So these are the teams that people didn't consider that you would consider a sleeper team, and they came in from the behind. So thankfully that they pulled it off.
Right.
As far as with Valley, I don't know what happened here with Valley. Normally, Valley plays Jackson State very, very tough. They play them very tough, even if they lose by a point or two. They normally play them very tough.
Oh, man. I watched the game, and the whole game I was fussing and saying words that I can't repeat on the air because we just did not challenge Jackson State. the defense held its own early. I mean, they were in the backfield. They were hitting Jackson State hard. Jackson State had a quarterback that could not even throw. And we just did not take advantage of our opportunities. But your Jaguar quarterback, Austin Howard, threw for 338 yards and five touchdowns. He was throwing it good. If we could have had Howard for the Jackson State game, we would have won. Can y'all loan him to us? I mean, we have some decent quarterbacks, but for some odd reason, we didn't throw the ball much at all in the first half. We got behind, we made a quarterback switch. We just didn't challenge Jackson State. And I know everybody's going to say that Jackson State has better athletes than us. This game came down to strictly nothing but pure execution. We did not execute on offense. We didn't execute. Had we executed on offense, Jackson State would have got a chance to meet Mr. 0-8. But they didn't. But guess who can? But next week we play another Tiger who is winless. And I'm going to keep my mouth shut this time because I'm going to wait until the end of the game before I introduce Texas Southern to a friend of mine. So I'm not going to get bit twice. I'm going to be quiet, let the outcome of the game happen first before I make my move, because I'm pretty sure I got phone calls, text messages from all of the noise that I talked to Jackson State Tigers, and I had to eat my words. I had to eat them. So congrats, Jackson State. You are now 1-7. But
that's just how it goes. I guess the game of the week that everybody will be looking for, a couple of games of the week. Devontae Kincaid had a really great game as well. As you said, as they just completely obliterated Texas Southern. But, I mean, I did check over his stats, had a really great game. The games that people will be looking at this week coming up, of course, will definitely be Prairie View and Southern, and, of course, Alabama A&M and Alcorn to see what happens here. It is Jackson State's homecoming. And then, of course, Gramblin's coming off of their homecoming. So just really excited to see what's going to be happening this week in the SWAC. Now, what else we have?
Well, in the SWAC, we had some cross-country champions crowned in the SWAC. My alma mater, the Lady Devilettes, won the SWAC's cross-country championship. Congratulations to the Delta Devils. Also, the Jackson State men won the cross-country championship for the SWAC. And, of course, we have volleyball and soccer. Bama State clinched the regular season title in soccer. The SWAC tournament will start in November. The top 8 will play in the tourney. Also, in volleyball, Bama State is running away with the regular season title. Still some more games to be decided, but they are dominant. I think they are undefeated in the SWAC. 14-0 with an overall 21-9 record. So, congratulations to the Alabama State Hornets. They are doing it in soccer and volleyball. And next, we want to go ahead and run over to the MEAC to talk about some of the results in the MEAC, because as we know, late October, early November, you already know it means races for the conference's championship spots are heating up. And this week, Hampton had its MEAC record blemished by Bethune-Cookman. North Carolina Central staged dominant, defeating Delaware State, their homecoming. Savannah State defeats Norfolk State 27-9. Howard defeats South Carolina State, and Florida A&M defeated Morgan State. North Carolina A&T was idle this week, so they of course are still undefeated, and they are leading the MEAC right now. And the MEAC, of course, like I said, North Carolina A&T sits at 5-0 in the conference, followed by 3 4-1 teams: North Carolina Central, Hampton, and Howard. Then behind those are Norfolk State at 3-2, Bethune-Cookman at 2-2, but Florida A&M at 2-4, South Carolina State at Morgan State, Savannah State at 1-4, and Delaware State sit at 1-5. So North Carolina A&T is in the driver's seat for the MEAC. Also in the MEAC, we had some cross country champions crowned. In the men, let's see here. Where is my cross country? Norfolk State wins the men's cross country championship, and FAMU wins the women's cross country championship. And in volleyball, Maryland Eastern Shore sits undefeated in their division, and Bethune-Cookman sits undefeated in the Southern Division. So with those two teams, as volleyball season gets to dwindle down, you're going to look for those two teams to potentially have a championship matchup. Will they be undefeated by the time the regular season ends? I guess we'll find out toward the end of November. Late November, Kels, also brings basketball. And basketball teams are preparing to play. There's already been a couple teams that have played already over in the GCAC, but in the MEAC, they have selected their teams and also stated who is going to be their players of the year in basketball for men and women. And on the women's side, the race is going to go down like this. Hampton is predicted to be number 1 to win the conference. Bethune-Cookman behind them. North Carolina A&T behind at number 3. Norfolk State, Howard, Florida A&M, Maryland Eastern Shore, Morgan State, Coppin State, Savannah State, Delaware State, South Carolina State, and North Carolina Central rounds out the field. Preseason player of the year is Najee Pollard out of Delaware State. So we're going to see what happens in the MEAC when it comes to women's basketball. On the men's side, the leader in the men's side will be Morgan State with 13 first-place points, followed by Norfolk State, North Carolina Central, Hampton, Savannah State, Maryland Eastern Shore, South Carolina State, Howard, Bethune-Cookman, Delaware State, FAMU, Coppin State, North Carolina A&T, and rounds out the field. And the preseason player of the year will be Philip Carr out of Morgan State. So, we're still in football season, but, late October, early November, basketball nets start being caught on fire. So we want to make sure we let everybody know that, yes, football season is heating up toward the end of the football season, but now it's time for us to get ready for HBCU basketball season as well, Kels.
And I think that's one of the most things. A lot of people, you transition from one and you go right into the next. I've been following quite a few of them. Tennessee State is amping up. FAMU is amped up. And in a couple of weeks, we are going to have the coach from Central State, the women's basketball coach. I spoke with him. He's really, really excited about doing an interview. And he's really excited about his team because they're going to be defending their championship. So, it's transitioning over into basketball, and then you have some of the things. You still have cross country going on, and then you have football that's ending out with Celebration Ball. So, it's sports we're just year round.
Right.
So.
Right, and then next week's football game is in the MEAC, while we're still in the MEAC conference. North Carolina A&T will take on Norfolk State. North Carolina Central will take on Hampton, which will, once that game takes place, someone will move up. And then, of course, we all know what happened last year. North Carolina Central defeated North Carolina A&T in their rivalry game at the end of the year for the Celebration Bowl bid. So North Carolina A&T is not looking to lose any games, but I got a feeling they're going to beat Norfolk State. Who do you think? Okay, we'll be right back after this commercial break.
I already knew that I was going to go to college, from a young age. I definitely want to major in political science. After that, I'm going to get my law degree. Then I'm going to come back to Detroit, boost the economy, become the mayor or something, try to make the situation better for other people. I feel like I owe it to the city. I'm determined. It's gonna happen. My name is Justin, and I am your dividend.
All right, we're back on Black College Experience, and we were just talking about next week's games in the MEAC, Kels. I picked North Carolina A&T to beat Norfolk State. But who do you think is going to win between those two teams?
said Norfolk State and who?
North Carolina A&T.
Definitely going to be North Carolina A&T. I think they're going to keep steamrolling with the trend. I don't see them slowing down no time yet. Again, you look at Coach Broadway and what he's doing with these guys. I just don't see. I think he's on the hunt to win. Last year, I think it was a fluke with North Carolina Central winning and beating them. I think it was like some bad plays, some bad stuff. But I definitely think this year going in, I think North Carolina A&T is definitely going to win. And at this point, shout out to Tariq Cohen for the touchdown today. Of course, coming out of North Carolina A&T. But I definitely think this weekend is definitely going to be North Carolina A&T.
All right. Up next is North Carolina Central at Hampton. I'm going to roll with the Eagles to defeat Hampton.
I do believe that Central, they'll pull this one off against Hampton. I agree there.
All right, next up is Morgan State at Bethune-Cookman. Morgan State has my boy at quarterback out of Mississippi State, but he's been struggling. They have scored some points, but I'm on roll with Bethune-Cookman.
BCU, as I always say, BCU is definitely going to be the winner here in this case. I'm gonna say this is just going off a good feeling, but yeah, I definitely think it's going to be them.
All right, up next, Howard at Florida A&M. Howard kind of had their jets cooled a little bit, a few tough losses, but they are still a better team when you compare them to Florida A&M. So I'm gonna roll with the Howard Bison.
I'm definitely rolling with Kalen Newton this week. He's had a really pretty productive season. And I'm going to say starting from the UNLV game on, he's had some really breakout games. He's even on homecoming, really great stats. So I'm going to go with Howard this week as well.
All right. And last but not least in the MEAC, Battle of the Cellar Dwellers, Delaware State at Savannah State. Toss-up. I'm going to roll with Savannah State.
Who are they playing?
Delaware State versus Savannah State. That's Shannon Sharp squad, so I'm going to roll with Savannah State.
I'm going to go with Savannah State as well.
All right, before we jump out of the MEAC, I wanted to talk about this also, Kels. Have you ever heard of the Jerry Rice Award?
I don't think so.
Okay, the Jerry Rice Award is awarded by Stats and Stats FCS, and it's awarded to the top freshmen at the FCS level. And 17 have been nominated so far. HBCU players are on this list, but all three players are coming out of the MEAC. There's no SWAC, there's no SWAC players on this list. And, of course, there's no Division II either, but some of these Division II players, I'm pretty sure they have an award for them. But just to give kudos to the young men out of the MEAC who are on this list for the Stats FCS Jerry Rice Award watch list, Franklin Mack McCain III out of North Carolina A&T. He's a 5'11" cornerback out of Greensboro, North Carolina. He has 33 tackles, 1 for loss. He has 5 interceptions. He has sticky fingers with 274 return yards, 3 touchdowns, and 6 pass breakups in 8 games, Kels. If he continues the high start to his career in after 3 years, after this year, I'm pretty sure he'll get a chance to play at the next level. A true freshman balling like that, I think that's awesome. Up next is none other than Kalen Newton out of Howard, a 5'9", 5'11" inch, 195-pound quarterback out of Atlanta, Georgia. He has completed 85 163 passes for 1,549 yards and 9 TDs with 8 picks. He has carried the ball 103 times for 542 yards and 9 TDs in 7 games. And rounding out the field of the 3 MEAC players up for the Jerry Rice Award is Isaiah Totten out of North Carolina Central. He's a running back and kick returner, a 5'9", 180-pound athlete out of Apex, North Carolina. He has carried the ball 87 times for 522 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 catches for 8 yards, 11 kick returns for a 19.6 average over 7 games. It's amazing. I mean, I would have liked to have had some SWAC players on that list, but I haven't really checked to see if we have any freshmen who deserve to be on that list. I guess that's something that I can research next week to see if we do have any freshmen that are performing at a high level that may have been left off of this list. It's potential that they could get nominated next week because, it's just a watch list. Players get added all the time. So hopefully a young freshman in the SWAC will get nominated to this list because we know our brand of football is just as exciting.
How
as
do
the
they
MEAC.
choose the players? How do they choose them?
Well, I guess they took from nominations, from reporters, from reporters, coaches, and all the other players are across, from non-HBCU schools. Some of these players I have heard of, some of them I have not heard of, but I'm just gonna have to research to see if we have any freshman players that are dominating. That should be mentioned in this list. And, what I'll do then is I'll take the liberty to email whoever's responsible for this list and say, hey, look, we have some players in the SWAC that are deserving to be nominated on this list. So, you can't just overlook the SWAC. I think the running back for Southern, Ben, he has had an amazing freshman year. Southern has had some amazing freshman performances this year. So I know Southern sits behind Grambling in the SWAC West right now, but Southern's freshman class has been outstanding. I know Ben, he ran for close to 100 yards and a touchdown against Pine Bluff. He's had a couple other games where he's run for 100 yards. So he's deserving to be mentioned from the SWAC as a top freshman.
I guess my concern more so is, how is it a Jerry Rice Award, but you don't have anybody from the SWAC nominated?
Well, I guess
you can't
FCS.
call the award.
It's players that play at the FCS level, but yes, you are right. Well, how can you not? How can you not have a freshman on the list?
Seriously, he's out of the SWAC. You're straight out of the SWAC, so you don't find anybody in the SWAC conference that you can say is notable of being mentioned. And these are the times when you have to do the due diligence and do the research. Yeah, I love to know how they're nominated, and I'm the same way. Whenever I can't figure something out, I'm ready to write a letter, send an email or something, because in this case, you don't want to overlook anybody. You have so many guys playing up to high potential that are looked over. And, while we cater to every HBCU, you can't just cater strictly to the MEAC, as when they do polls with bands and things. And then we know who does not really know about a poll, because anytime when you rank certain bands in certain ranks, we know that it's geared towards. We just don't want any school or any player overlooked, and I don't care basically what conference they come from.
Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see. You got to look at Akil Glass. He's a true freshman starter. He's led his team, even though he shared time with Damian May. They were, had a chance to be number one in the SWAC East had they handled business yesterday. So he's had a pretty good freshman year. I guess you have to be winning also, but Glass has led his teams to some victories. And Ben, like I just mentioned, he's ran for 338 yards and 3 touchdowns. Let's see. I'm just looking at the stats here. Just looking at general stats to see if I can see a freshman who offensively who is dominating. You have another freshman, wide receiver Jay Washington, who has caught 29 passes for 333 yards and 3 touchdowns out of your Jaguars. So we have some freshmen that are performing. Fowler out of Valley, Glass out of Alabama A&M.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we'll just have to go back and figure them.
Yes, indeed. All right, but before we jump over to the rest of the updates, the Black College Hall of Fame nominated their finalist kills, and you're going to be happy about this list because there's a Southern Jaguar on this list. Have you had a chance to look at
I already
that
know it. Yeah. I kind of posted Harold Carmichael a couple of times.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
I did.
The 7 finalists, the class will be Move this ad out the way. Harold Carmichael, wide receiver out of Southern University. Raymond Chester out of Morgan State. Thomas Hollywood Henderson out of Langston University. Leo Locomotive, awesome nicknames these guys have. Leon Lincoln Locomotive Lewis out of Lincoln University. Greg Lloyd out of Fort Valley State. I remember Greg Lloyd. He was a dominant linebacker. He could stop you run and he could pass rush. Everson Wiles out of Grambling State University. I remember watching Everson Wiles growing up. And Coach Bill Hayes, who coached at Winston-Salem State and North Carolina A&T. Congratulations to the 2018 class for the Black College Hall of Fame, Kels. Got any comments on this class?
Exciting thing. And this year, I'm trying my best to be in attendance to that. The funny thing is a guy, Thomas Henderson he's actually one of those that is going to the Black College Hall of Fame. He did play for the Cowboys. I want to say he was Norfolk. I can't remember his school right at the top of my
Hollywood
head, but
Henderson?
I know he is actually Lincoln. So he's going into the Black College Hall of Fame here as well. It's just one of those prestigious events, one of those things, if you can make it to see it, you want to see it. But this year I am definitely trying to be in attendance to see these guys be inducted to the Hall of Fame. And again, Congratulations to this upcoming class.
Right, and it's not fair that you're right there in Atlanta. I kind of wish I could Star Trek beam myself to Atlanta so I could go to this event. I think it's awesome.
That I can go just see it all.
Yeah, you get to see it all?
I can see it all. And that's the great thing about being in this city is that if you don't catch one thing, I can always catch other things. I'll always be able to catch Celebration Bowl because Celebration Bowl is here. So, it's certain things that I'll always be able to catch. I have to commute and travel to some, but Celebration Bowl, I'll be able to, like, events like that, it's always a great time.
Right, and we do have a caller, Kills, and that's my line brother, Patrick. Patrick, how you doing tonight, man?
Health-wise, doing great. As far as what happened Saturday, that's another story, but...
Yeah, we already
how y'all doing this evening?
Yeah, we already talked about the result of us letting Jackson State escape with that victory. But you were at the game. I watched it.
Yeah, tell us about it since you were there.
Tell us, what do you think about the game, PP?
It's like you can I know that Valley has a small defensive line, and you could just see a noticeable difference. But the first quarter, well, really just the first half, you can see that Jackson State's quarterback can't throw. They have a dual threat quarterback, but he really can't throw the ball over 20 yards. He can't throw. So you think any defensive coordinator with their mind on got some type of skill can adjust and make him throw. But they just started running the ball, and then didn't put 8 in the box. And that's what basically happened in the game. Then you put our worst quarterback on our roster. For some reason, they let those numbers against Virginia Lynchburg, I guess, made them think that he's actually good. And he got in the game, and just like he started in the other game, he was throwing those little duck shots and wasn't completing anything. All thing I would say is in the fourth quarter, his best throw got dropped by a running back, wide open, heading into the end zone. He just dropped the ball.
So is there a reason why Fowler didn't play? I know Betts started the game. Why didn't Fowler play? Is he injured?
Your guess is as good as mine. Starting the game, it was I hate I didn't record this. I could have put it for everybody to see, but it was a pregame, you could say ruckus, in which the Valley players and the Jackson State player were all in each other's face. Valley player were going into their, those inflatable helmets that, teams have. We got one of those now.
Uh-huh.
Valley player was heading into their helmet, and the Jackson State player was following behind them. So the game started off, every player on the field had an unsportsmanlike conduct against him. And Valley player got thrown out at the end of the game.
So
our quarterback got thrown out.
Unsportsmanlike penalties on every player due to that ruckus?
Yeah. Yeah.
And an important Mississippi Valley State University player later got a unsportsmanlike penalty later on in the game, and he was ejected.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I don't want to say that's the reason why we lost the game, but we lost the game because Jackson State out-executed us. I mean, we had a perfect opportunity to exercise the Tiger Demon, to introduce them to 0-8 and keep them below us in the SWAC East for at least this season, because it's gonna be a matter of time before Jackson State gets back to where they feel like they should be as far as the ability of their football team. Because I'm from Jackson, I've never seen Jackson State be this pitiful on the football team. Even during the James Bell years, I mean, they were competitive to some degree. Yeah. I mean, we didn't beat Jackson State under Bell.
I'm gonna say this. That's the worst Jackson. This is the worst Jackson State team I've seen ever. That played when we played Saturday. That was the worst team ever. So that kind of lets you know why the Valley alumni base is so frustrated.
Exactly. This was our time. Yeah, this is our time to squash Jackson State, and we blew it. I mean, we let them come in, and it looks like a Jackson State score of old. 20 was it 24-5? I mean, it looks like the game looks worse than it was. I mean, we were in the game for the majority of the game. Like you said, all Jackson State did was run the ball. When they did throw it, little 5-yard darts down the field that could have been easily defended or schemed against, because you're dealing with a quarterback that they didn't have any confidence in throwing against. But, the first half, I mean, we didn't even challenge the Jackson State defense at all. I mean, we didn't challenge them at all. We got that field goal due to the good field position that we had, but we didn't challenge them. We let them escape. We let them off the hook. We pulled a Dennis Green. That's what we did.
That was one of the main reasons why we lost right there. We were starting at least. You see, Chambers had one good return in the first half. We had a couple turnovers, and out of all those times we started in their side of the field, we only scored 3 points.
Right. And now Jackson State's going to be playing against Alabama State next week for homecoming. Yeah, and for one, I'm going to be rooting for the Hornets. I'm hoping that they spoil Jackson State's homecoming, because if Jackson State wins and we don't beat Texas Southern, I mean, then we'll be back at the bottom of the SWAC East, which that's not what I want. Well, I want to keep Jackson State there for bragging rights, of course, Kels. Kels knows I catch a lot of flack from Jackson State fans as well this week. All the crow I had to eat. I was expecting a few of them to call in tonight to kind of make me look bad. I'm kind of glad y'all didn't, Tigers. I'm glad y'all didn't call in. But you know what? Congratulations on your win. But we're going to move right along on over to the SIAC, Kels. And just like in the SWAC, the SIAC championship scene is heating up. Tuskegee blows out Central State 45-0. Fort Valley State has clinched their spot in the SIAC championship game with a 52-7 blowout of Morehouse. Benedict College defeated Albany State 17-12, and Kentucky State defeated Lane 32-5. So let me pull up the standings here. Let me pull up these standings in football. All right. Now, like I said, Fort Valley State has already clinched in the East. They sit at 5-0. Benedict is 4-1. Albany State's 3-2. Clark Atlanta is 2-3. Morehouse is 1-4. And Tuskegee looks to be rolling right along, sitting at 5-0 in the West. Miles sitting right behind them, waiting for somebody to defeat Tuskegee at 4-1. Kentucky State, last year's championship representative, they're not going to get that help this year. They're at 2-3, and Central State and Lane sit at defeated in the conference at 0-5. Next week's games in the SIAC for this week, for next week, November 4th. Tuskegee will play Miles. So we're gonna pick these games. Kels, who do you think is gonna win between Tuskegee and Miles?
Coming in, of course, looking, I never really go against Willie Slayton. So, of course, coming off this explosive win for homecoming, definitely going to take Tuskegee. Miles is kind of shaky, so, yeah, definitely taking Tuskegee this week.
All right. PP, who you got, Tuskegee or Miles?
Tuskegee, I mean.
And I'm going to triple it out. I'm going to roll with Tuskegee also.
Yeah.
Next up is Clark Atlanta versus Morehouse. I'm going to roll with Clark Atlanta. Kels, who you got?
Definitely going to roll with Clark. I've watched both Clark and Morehouse. Clark is one of those teams, they have the ability to finish. Morehouse is one of those teams that have an up-down wavelength. I think this weekend will be a down wavelength. Fast, hard, smart. I don't know how that's going to work out, but I do know that Clark will win this game this weekend.
PP, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Clark. I think they're just a better team right now. Morehouse is, ever since they played up against UAPB, they just really kind of tapered off since then.
Okay. And Central State versus Lane. I'm going to roll with Lane. Kels, who do you think is going to win this game?
Definitely Lane. If you ever get to meet Lane's coach, it might be a long week. Just the conversations with him, just having the conversation with him and what his team can do, definitely going to be Lane. Central State, I don't know what Central State is doing this year, but definitely going to be a Lane situation this weekend.
All right, and Kentucky State versus Benedict. I'm going to roll with Kentucky State. Kels, who you got?
I'm going to take Benedict. I'm going to take Benedict in this situation. Now, this is one of those games where you could either get it or going. If Benedict starts out fast, don't turn the ball over. I think they have a better chance. So I'm definitely taking Benedict this week.
PP, who you got, Benedict or Kentucky State?
Man, I'm going to go with Kentucky State.
All right. And next up, Fort Valley State, who has already clinched their spot in the championship game against Albany State. Since they've already clinched, I could see Fort Valley State potentially resting some players, but this is an in-state rivalry. I'm gonna say Fort Valley State's gonna play their starters, and if they get up comfortably, the coach is gonna do what you're supposed to do. You take your starters out. So I'm gonna roll with Fort Valley State to stay undefeated heading into the next week. Kels, who you got, Fort Valley or Albany?
Coming in, knowing Coach Giordano, they're not going to lose 3 games in a row. They lost last week at Clark with homecoming. They lost this past week to Benedict. Definitely don't see Coach Giordano losing a 3rd game. So I'm going to take Albany State.
PP, your pick.
It's just something about being undefeated, man. As we know, with the undefeated HBCUs that are still remaining, it's something about being undefeated that means something. So I think Fort Valley is going to stay undefeated. They're going to play hard and go try to win the game.
All right. And before we jump over to the CIAA, I want to mention the cross-country championships for the SIAC. Albany State wins the cross-country championship for the women, and Morehouse is the cross-country champion for the men. Also, volleyball standings. Albany State sits at 12-3 in the conference. Clark Atlanta 9-3, Benedict 8-7, Claflin 6-8, Fort Valley State 2-13, Payne 1-11. Spring Hill is undefeated in the West. Lemoyne and Kentucky State at 13-4. Lane is at 5-10. Central State is at 5-12. Tuskegee at 4-9, and Miles is 3-13. Now, dropping over to the CIAA in football. My favorite team, Bowie State, out of the CIAA, needs some help. They need some help this week because, Virginia State pulled out a 26-23 victory over Childhood to stay undefeated. Bowie State's only loss came against Virginia State. So Bowie State handled business against Lincoln, Pennsylvania. Still scoring basketball on scoring points like they're playing basketball on a football field. Defeated Lincoln, Pennsylvania, 86-14. St. Aug's defeated Johnson C. Smith 24-0. We already talked about the Virginia State Chowing game. Virginia Union continues to roll also with a 37-21 victory over Elizabeth City State. Winston-Salem State handles Shaw 27-21. Fayetteville State defeats Livingstone 28-26, which leads to next week's games in the CIAA. Fayetteville State plays against Winston-Salem State, and this game will be for the division. Winston-Salem State is a very strong team. They were the champions last year. They defeated Bowie State. Bowie State exercised their demons, beating Winston-Salem State this year, but losing to Virginia State to allow Virginia State to take the number 1 seed in their division. But now Winston-Salem State has a chance to secure its spot in the championship again if they can beat Fayetteville State. Kels, who you got in this game, Winston-Salem State or Fayetteville State?
I'm going to take Winston-Salem State here in this case. Just feel like that would be the better team. I'm taking Winston-Salem
Fayetteville
State.
State came out of nowhere. No one was expecting them to compete in the CIAA. I mean, you know, you have your top-heavy division where you have Bowie State and the Virginias. And then Winston-Salem State has been rolling, so no one thought anyone would challenge Winston-Salem State. I'm going to also roll with Winston-Salem State this week to secure their spot in the CIAA championship game. PP, who are you pulling for in this game?
Yeah, I like Winston-Salem State. I think it's Fayetteville. It's good that they've improved a lot compared to what they have been, but I think Winston-Salem State, they're going to handle their business and secure their spot in the championship game.
All right. And next up in the CIAA for next week's game, St. Augustine versus Shaw. Toss-up. I'm going to roll with Shaw. Kels, who you got?
Oh, I have Shaw as well.
All right. PP?
Shaw.
And next up is Johnson C. Smith versus Livingstone. Johnson C. Smith, I thought they would have a better team than they had last year. And,
no.
They've been getting beaten so bad. I mean, both teams have had bad years. But I'm gonna roll with Johnson C. Smith against Livingstone.
I'm just not going. Of course, I'm gonna give the history lesson behind it when we're here. Of course, that was the very first black football game that was played was between Johnson C. Smith and Livingstone. Very first game, and that was 125 years ago. So Johnson C. Smith won then. It was, 5-0 was the final score. That's before touchdowns were 7 or 6. But it was 5-0. But in this case, I'm going to take Livingstone this year. And like you said, looking at both teams, they have had some way bad. And I've watched the game where Johnson C. Smith literally has gotten blown out the frame, even homecoming. So, yeah, I'm going to take Livingstone this weekend.
All right, next up this week will be Bowie State versus Elizabeth City State. Bowie State. I'm not picking against Amir Hall. He's only let me down once this year. They lost to Virginia State, but we see what Virginia State has been doing all year long. So, but I'm going to pull for Bowie State to defeat Elizabeth City State. Kels, what you got?
I definitely have Bowie State as well to come off against. I mean, just if you're looking at what they're doing, again, they've defeated some schools, even going against Winston-Salem last year. Again, that's another game that I considered a fluke that I feel like they should have won. But this year, I think they're going to dominate and do what they need to do. So I'm definitely taking Bowie State this week.
All right, PP, who you got?
Bowie
State. And the final game, let's see who we got here. Virginia Union. I got 2 more games. Virginia Union versus Virginia State. Virginia State is undefeated. This is an in-state rivalry game, of course, both schools being from Virginia. So throw the records out. We saw what happened to Alabama A&M last week. But I just think Virginia State is on a mission. They are on a mission to claim the CIAA championship. So I'm going to pull for Virginia State in this game, the Virginia State Trojans. Kels, who do you have in this game?
I'm gonna roll with the Virginia State Trojans as well. They've been playing not only good ball, they've been playing consistent ball. So every week it's a step up. And like you said, with them being undefeated, it's definitely a plus. So I'm taking the Trojans this week as well. And then if you look at last week, they blew their opponent out the frame. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna take Virginia State as well.
And PP, your choice.
Yeah, I think Barlow is trying to get back to the Division I level. He's on a mission right now. So yeah, I'm going with Virginia State as well.
All right, and the last game, Chowan versus Lincoln, Pennsylvania. With Chowan playing Virginia State so tough, and Lincoln getting killed by Bowie, I mean, simple math. Chowan, that's who I'm rolling with. Kels, who you picking in the Chowan versus Lincoln, Pennsylvania game?
I'm taking Chowan as well.
PP?
Chowan.
All right, and that's it for football. We do have some cross-country championships announcements to make. And congratulations to Fayetteville State on the women's side and Virginia State on the men's side for claiming and earning the cross-country championships in the CIAA. And we have some golf also. Virginia Union wins the Trojan Fall Classic. Now, before we jump over to GCAC, I want to send out congratulations to Langston University. They remain undefeated with a 27-14 win over Panhandle State. Another team, HBCU, that decided to allow a winless team to win their first game, defeated Jackson State earlier this year. Tennessee State loses to Tennessee Tech to give them their first win. Tennessee State hasn't had the year that they thought they would have. They lose to Tennessee Tech 30-26. Tennessee Tech is now sits at 1-7, and Tennessee State is now at 4-4. So, you know, if my Delta Devils could have handled their business and Tennessee State could have handled their business, they would have had 2 0-8 teams, you know, that we could have talked about this week. But, you know, Tennessee State's gonna have to bounce back. Outstanding performance by their offense, but the defense just couldn't hold the game. And the Ohio Valley Conference also had their cross-country championships, but Tennessee State men and women's teams both finished 12th in those competitions. Now,
and it's before you go on, it's kind of odd. It's like you said. I don't think Rod Reed expected this as well with his team. Definitely as far as where they were predicted, and I'm not saying they were predicted, but if you look at what they've done when they play SWAC schools, they play other conferences, and then you look at what they do in their own, it's just definitely like it's just different across the board. But I didn't see this coming, but they have not played up to the caliber that I'm used to Tennessee State playing up to this year.
Exactly. I agree. I mean, because they're an HBCU, but they don't play in the HBCU conference. So they play in the Ohio Valley Conference, which is supposed to be tougher competition. Would you like to see Tennessee State join the SWAC or the MEAC?
You know, they've been in a. They weren't always in the OVC. I want to say they were already in another conference with us because they were playing A&M. They were playing like some of the schools. I have to just go back and double check, but they moved the conference. So they were actually in a conference within the SIC. They were actually in the conference. I got to figure out which one it was, but they moved to the OVC. So they actually moved. They were over here with their cousins, but they moved.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we're going to jump over to our last conference for the night. And we're going to talk about some volleyball and then a little basketball. Cross-country championships for the GCAC. That stands for Gulf Coast Athletic Conference. Another all-HBCU conference with Division II schools. Congratulations to Ed Waters and Xavier for winning the men's Ed Waters and women's Xavier cross-country championships. Volleyball, Xavier is blazing at 11-0 in the GCAC at 19-2 overall. Dillard right behind them at 8-2. Tougaloo College, also close to my hometown in Jackson, Mississippi, Tougaloo College at 8-4. SUNO, Southern University of New Orleans, your sister school, Kels, is at 5-6. Ed Waters at 5-7. Talladega at 2-9, and Fernandez Smith sits at 0-11 in volleyball. Now, basketball has started. Basketball has started in the GCAC, and had a few games already played. And, you know, we had 3 games over the weekend. Oakwood University versus Talladega defeated Talladega 86-66. So they lost to Talladega 86-66. Xavier defeated St. Thomas University 75-73. Coastal College of Georgia defeated Talladega 69-67. Talladega blows out Selma 80-71. And Florida Memorial College loses to Xavier. That's on the men's side. On the women's side, Edward Waters defeats Coastal College of Georgia. Talladega blows out Oakwood 100-59. Loyola defeats Xavier 76-45. Talladega beats Life University 75-70. Edward Waters loses to Florida Memorial College. And Selma University loses to Talladega 90-52. So that's all the sports updates I have as far as across the HBCU conferences. We're also running out of time, so we kind of fit all that in an hour tonight, Kel. That was a lot, huh, Kels?
That was. Every sport, every game, every conference, every
I think
prediction.
this is the first time we hit all the conferences.
Like every single thing. I don't think it's different when we don't have a guest. It's the thing. So
and
next
I
week will be different.
I know West Virginia State and Fisk is out there, so we're gonna try to make sure we hit you all next time. You know, because we know you all are out there grinding hard on your playing fields and ball courts. So, you know, we love all our HBCUs, Kels.
That we do.
So we want to thank you for joining in tonight with us at Black College Experience. Again, I'm Big D down here I almost said it'll be in Baton Rouge, and from Diva Kels in Atlanta, Georgia. Kels, you have anything?
All right. So before we get out of here next week, please tune in to Black College Experience. We do have the one and only Coach Penny Lucas White. That is Alabama State's volleyball coach. If y'all been tuned in to Alabama State and their volleyball team, they are a force to be reckoned with. They have knocked off, I want to say 5, maybe 6 PWIs this year. So you definitely want to follow them. At the time that I booked Coach, they had actually had like 30 consistent SWAC wins. So you definitely want to catch it next week. She will be on. I'm excited to talk to her because y'all know I get excited when it comes to the women's sport. So we will have her next week, so make sure y'all tune in. That's all I got.
Right. And I kind of, speaking of that, you know, our last week's guest, I was talking about a little trash talk. I sure wish Coach Darden would have called in this week so I could have trash talked to her about my Delta Devils, Lady Delta Devils, whooping up on your Jaguars in the cross-country championship. I just want to just, you know, all sports matter. That's right, Kels.
That's
all right, PP, you got anything you want to say to the listeners before we get out of here?
Oh, yeah. Congratulations to our Devilettes in their cross-country win, our first ever. We're kind of known on the men's side as far as cross-country, but for them to secure their first ever SWAC title, that was big for them and what Coach Tate is trying to do.
Absolutely. And I tell people all the time, just because Valley does not compete in football, you have to look for other stuff that they compete in, which is why I came up with that hashtag, All Sports Matter, because there are so many other things that Valley has competed in that people don't talk about. They've competed in, and if they didn't come in first, they have come in second. They have knocked off some teams in some other sports. But if they knock off Southern, we're not going to talk about it, okay, dear?
Yes, we're
not going to talk about it if they knock off my school.
Yes, we are. Yes, but before we go, I just found
we will.
The SWAC released their preseason nominations and award winners a few days ago in the women's and men's basketball. Preseason Player of the Year is Shakala Hill out of Grambling. Preseason Defensive Player of the Year is Alexis Freeman out of Alcorn State. And the predicted order of finish will go as follows: Texas Southern, Grambling, Bama State, your Lady Jags, Alcorn State, Prairie View, Arkansas Pine Bluff, Jackson State, Alabama State, and I don't know why they got my Delta Devils last, because we're going to upset some people this year in women's basketball. Over on the men's side, the preseason player of the year is Reginald Johnson out of Alcorn State. The preseason co-defensive players of the year are Treshawn Bolden out of Jackson State, also out of my high school, Callaway. He's a Callaway Charger, even though he's a Tiger. Yalen Reed out of Alcorn State are the two preseason co-defensive players of the year. And the predicted order of finish is as follows: Texas Southern, your Southern Jaguars at number 2, Alcorn State, Prairie View, Alabama State, Grambling State, Arkansas Pine Bluff, my Delta Devils, and Alabama A&M. Excuse me, this was a typo. Jackson State was slated to follow behind Southern at number 3. So that's all we have here for Black College Experience. Be sure to check us out next week. We will have an awesome guest. We want to talk more HBCU sports. We're going to have some upsets next week, some champions trying to get crowned, some movers and shakers up and down the standings. I may get a chance to have Texas Southern introduced to 0-8. I guess we'll find out, but I'm not going to make that prediction right now. So make sure you check us out next week. This is Big D out of Baton Rouge. We out.
Good night.
Shutterstock